I have peach tea in my glass, so please understand that I am gonna talk my shit today. Black people, Black Americans are the original revolutionaries of America. They are consistently the civil rights frontliners, and that requires a great amount of self-care and self-love. The healing of that trauma within every Black individual is something that's deserved, and it's something that's your birthright, to recognize that it was never about you. It was never about Black people. It never was. You're beautiful, you're whole, you're complete, you are excellent. Take care of yourself. So if you're like me, you're like, oh, Black Lives Matter now? Question mark. Now they matter? First of all, this message is, I feel like, specifically for Black people and people of color. That's who seems to be the most exhausted. If you're like me, you're tired. And I just want the message to come in clear that this is not a you problem. What's going on, and what has been going on for the past 100 years, we wish. The last several hundred years since the genesis of America is not Black people's problem to fix. If it was, it would have been fixed a really long time ago. Anything, I mean, I don't know how spicy I'm gonna talk right now, how unfiltered I'm gonna talk, but please understand, like, when I speak of whiteness, I'm speaking of whiteness as a construct, not individual white people. I'm somebody who, I have whiteness as a part of my identity, but I am not a white woman. I have Blackness as a part of my identity, but I am not a Black woman. So I'm sort of betwixt the two worlds. I feel like that perspective has given me a lot of clarity, but it's also made things a little bit more cloudy for me. But I feel like the biggest issue right now is that Black people need to focus on healing and caring for themselves. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what you need to do. First of all, whatever reaction that you're having as a person of color, but specifically Black people, I would encourage you to react and to feel whatever you want to feel. If you want to be mad, you've got a right to be mad in the name of Solange. You have a right to be upset, depressed. You have a right to be sad. Whatever it is that you're feeling, like, you have a total right to those emotions, and don't let anybody else tell you differently. I want the primary focus, like, if it could be, I just see that there's so much trauma swirling. When you're a Black person, you inherently experience trauma on such a consistent basis, just being alive. The constant exposure to trauma, the constant having to witness trauma, it's all too much. And it's not just in your lifetime. We're talking generations back, and it's never been healed. And even worse than it never being healed is the fact that it's barely even acknowledged. People today barely really acknowledge the racial constructs, the white supremacy that reigns supreme over America. We barely even acknowledge that. Even now, as these riots and as things are really happening, we barely acknowledge the real true root of what's happening. Even just that on its face is almost like the worst kind of trauma that you can have, because it's saying that this is something that's happening to me, this is something that has happened to me, this is something that happened to my family, and it's not even acknowledged as real. People say, oh no, that's not real. What you're saying is happening to you, it doesn't exist. It's unimaginable trauma. There needs to be, within the next few, I mean, I say years, but we don't know how long it's going to take. I don't think it's really even right to put like a linear focus on it like that. But the focus needs to be less on Black people on the front lines, quote unquote, fixing the problem, and really fixing our own community, our own well-being, our own selves. Being in a place where we feel that we are moving towards healing as a people, because this is a white problem. This is like racism and white supremacy exists because of a defect within whiteness. Once again, when I speak of whiteness, I'm not saying, oh, you white person, you over here. It's a defect within you personally. There's a construct that exists that's called whiteness. There's a culture that exists that's called whiteness. And that is the default culture in American society. So when I say that there's a subsequent lack of esteem within that construct, That's what I'm talking about. And if you're triggered as a white person hearing that, that means you haven't done your work, period. I mean, I told you there's whiteness to my identity. I know for a fact now that not only has it taken me a lot of work to really wake up to the ways in which I contributed to white supremacy, to upholding the constructs where white supremacy is rife within them. Not only has it taken a lot of work and a lot of self-reflection and a lot of coming to terms with reality for me, but I know that as long as America is under the jurisdiction of white supremacy, I will continue to do that work my entire life. And it's nothing to feel guilt about. Like this whole like white guilt, like save it for me. Miss me with white guilt, okay? Because there's really no reason to feel guilty if you're doing the work, if you're actually doing the work. I don't know if I should say this because it's kind of like, I understand that this is coming from the best from a place of kindness or love. I would like to assume. Part of the reason I'm so activated is I got from my white side of my family these text messages that are literally nuts. Because not only have these people who are white, who are my family members, I've never even heard them my whole 34 years of life ever acknowledge even that we are black and they are white and that we have different experiences on this earth because of that. But it's all coming now after like these riots and like, oh, we're so upset. Oh, my heart goes out to you. We're listening and we're, you know, whatever we need to, like, we're listening to you and to other black people. And I'm just like, now? For what? Because it's trending? These are people who are in their late 60s, okay? You're in your late 60s and you're just now, like, piecing this stuff together. This is the issue. This is the problem. And I said, you know what? So I was like, please tell me what we can do. Tell me what. I said to my husband, this is the problem, is that it's not black people who need to sit down and teach white people how to move through these spaces, how to move through this revolution. What? Black history is American history. How long have you had access to a Frederick Douglass book, people? Like, I'm very confused of what's going on with that. You've never had to come to terms with this because you've never felt forced to or compelled to, and therein is the problem. I'm not saying that they mean malice. Like, I don't care. I'm not gonna be a white apologist, but this is insane. This is insane to me. Because it's not black people's problem, it's not black people's issue, it's not black people's agenda to take white people by the hand and be like, see what's happened? Black people have been showing what's happening. Black people have been voicing what's going on. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't continue to do so, but at the same time, that's not our responsibility. I'm moving through the trauma of just this happening, witnessing all of this happening, witnessing others' pain, fully letting in the pain of blackness, American blackness, being a part of the Black American diaspora. That's enough for me to handle without having to grab white people by the hand and be like, yeah, like, so let's talk about this. Let's tiptoe around your whiteness. And that's another thing, is it's like black people and people of color are conditioned within American culture to really tiptoe around white fragility. Miss me with it. We're tired. It's done. It's done. Because there's no more time left. The time for that, for you to tiptoe into it, like I said, these people are in their late 60s and they're just now deciding to explore these ideas that maybe black people, black Americans, have a different experience than them as white people. This is not the fight of black people. Black people have to heal their traumas, have to really come to terms with like finally being acknowledged as like, yes, this is a disease that's rotted through America since the beginning, since the genesis of America. That just being acknowledged now, it's like reverberating back through the ancestors. You think of all of the ancestors who not only were enslaved people, but the ones who were denied rights. It's not that far back, denied their rights. This is just now being acknowledged. This is a trauma that we all have to come together to heal as a people. And it should not be our focus to help white people understand it. It should be within. And I don't say that in a way that's callous, you know, like I should preface like those white family members who reached out to my sisters and I, they were definitely provoked or encouraged by my mother, who is white and who has her own issues with whiteness. We won't get into it. It's a very long story, honey darlings. It's a very long story, and it's not one that needs telling right now. But she has her own issues with whiteness. But it's crazy that it takes all of that for them to even acknowledge and to even reach out to their own Black family members. And I can guarantee you that most of them don't even know anyone Black, anybody else besides us. So it's just this crazy feeling. It's crazy making when you're like, hey, like, I'm just trying to deal with this and whatever, and you're over here like, oh, tell us what to do. We're listening. Your job right now as a white person is not to be passive. It's not to say we're listening. We've been talking for hundreds of years. So to say that you're listening now is almost a fucking slap in the face, and I'm tired of that. Your job is active right now as a white person. If Black people could have dismantled the oppression, the systematic oppression that we as a people experience within America, if we could have done that, it would have been done. It would have been done. Now, your job, white people, is to go forth and to explore the ways in which you as an individual contribute to the idealization of white supremacy, the construct of white supremacy, and the way that it's implemented in America. That's your job now. And like I said, I don't say it with any malice. It's nothing to be ashamed of. One thing that is common, it's like people are like, oh, well, so I have to feel bad about being white. I need to be ashamed of being white. Who said that? Who said that? That's you. That's your own psyche, your own guilt talking. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being white. You would think you got that message loud and clear being in America. White is the default in America. So please, like, the whole white guilt thing, the whole, oh, I'm attacked because I'm white, it needs to end. It's so self-indulgent. It's so completely self-indulgent and so missing the point. Black people are so exhausted because it's this feeling of, you know, like over the weekend, my husband and I are living in Spain right now. My husband is also, he's the same as me, Black father, white mother. So we're the exact same in that experience. And so we're watching all of these things unfold on the news. We're reading through, you know, going through social media, reading all of the news articles. And it's this feeling of helplessness. Like, what do we do? What do we do? You know, you feel so hopeless. We're not even there. We're not even on the front lines. We're not even around all of it, but we still feel it within our hearts because we are American no matter where we are. And we're still Black no matter where we are. Like, it was like a thing that we realized this weekend. We feel exhausted and hopeless because we feel like this is our thing to fix. We think that this is like somehow by force, by might, by trying, by numbers, by violence, by peace, by whatever way we're going to fix this. It isn't our thing to fix. This is squarely rooted in white supremacy and its origins. And if you are triggered by that as a white person, I will continue to say you need to do your work. As somebody who has done work, and like I said, the work isn't over. It's not like, oh yeah, I've acknowledged it. I've acknowledged my part in it as a light-skinned person, as whiteness to my identity. I've acknowledged it, so it's over. No, I will have to continue to do it for the rest of my life, most likely. And it's not that big of a deal. It's not that traumatic and hard compared to the other side of me, the Black experience, the Black trauma. It's like a piece of fucking cake. It's hard, it's difficult to look at yourself. I will acknowledge that. It's difficult to look at the hardships that you've gone through and realize that they could have been a lot fucking harder if you were just a few shades darker. That being said, it's nothing to feel. The guilt and the victimization is done with. Those days are over, unfortunately, darlings. That's done with. And if you're a person of color, I really encourage you during this time to not feel that necessity to coddle or to cater to white people, even the ones who are allies who would like to help. It's not your job to rally them together and explain to them what they need to do. This is their own, like, this is their thing. This is created by whiteness. If you could have dismantled it, if you could have taught your way out of white people upholding white supremacy, we would have done it. We would have done it already. The focus now for Black people and for people of color really needs to be rooted in healing the generational trauma, the trauma inflicted over a lifetime of living as a Black person or a person of color, and of witnessing, just like the fact that just witnessing racism is a trauma. Like, what does that tell you about the trauma that exists within the Black community? And it isn't fair, and it isn't correct, and it isn't right. And the real sad thing about it is that racism has always affected white people negatively. They just didn't realize it. Teaching a child that white supremacy is real, which we do it in very undercover, very covert ways most of the time. I mean, some people teach it outwardly, but I'm saying the vast majority, it's very dog whistle, it's very like undercover racism, it's very veiled. But teaching a child that that is reality is inflicting trauma on that child. So even white children who are taught these racist ideals, that's trauma for them. And that's the thing that is touching on the nerve of white people at this time. Any white guilt is coming from that. Is because they know what the truth is in their hearts. Not maybe in their hearts. Within your soul, like you can't lie to yourself. Your soul always knows the truth. Always. A mass healing needs to happen. A mass healing needs to occur. And it's nothing to be afraid of. There is no stopping it. There's been a comeuppance brewing in the ether for a very long time. Change doesn't always occur overnight or in big moments. And I think that in the future, people will try to look back and pinpoint 2020 as, oh, this is really when the revolution started. No, the revolution has been brewing this entire time. The wheels of change, when it's really this oppressive, when it's really this much of a disease, those wheels turn slowly. Comeuppance has been brewing in the ether for so long. The healing of that trauma in the Black community, within every Black individual, is something that's deserved, and it's something that's your birthright. To recognize that it was never about you. It was never about Black people. It never was. You're beautiful, you're whole, you're complete, you are excellent. Take care of yourself, please. I implore you. Whatever way it is that you feel you want to express in this time, please do it. Do it with your whole, full heart. Please, at the end of the day, take good care of yourself. Love yourself. As worked up as you can get, as upset, as angry, all of those emotions that I talked about, as much as you can feel that, know that that's not you. That's not who you are. That it's okay to feel those things, but you don't have to feel sad because this isn't about you. This isn't about the deficiency of Black people. And sometimes I feel like by fighting so hard and trying to convince and trying to be heard, it's like that has been lost within each of our psyches, that it's like maybe there is something wrong. If they don't see it, maybe there is something wrong, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Black people, Black Americans are the original revolutionaries of America. They are consistently the civil rights frontliners, and that requires a great amount of self-care and self-love. I pray that each individual is receiving that self-love from themselves. And I pray that in the future, we can really come together as a community and unite in our trauma and heal this trauma that has existed for generations in our ancestral line and in our own individual lifetimes. But I'm sending you all of the love. I'm sending you all of the light. I'm sending you all of the power. Know that you are loved. Know that you are infinitely powerful and infinitely beautiful.